Hello everyone! Today's video is another holiday crown. I've made something similar to this one before, but it's an older video without a voiceover, and this one has antlers. I remember a few years back, headpieces involving antlers were incredibly popular, and I always wanted one, but they were too expensive. So when I found the materials to make my own at a craft store, I was really excited, and I'm excited to share the process with you. For this project, I'm using wreath picks, specifically the ones with pine needles and pine cones on them. These ones all have little birds, berries, and fruits on them as well. I'm using some fake cranberries too, and some velvet flowers with gold centers. I'm using the leaves of these as well. The real star are the antlers. These are plastic molded antlers that are really lightweight and painted to be more realistic. I found these in the floral section of Michael's, attached to wire stems that I simply pulled off. Here is a picture of the tag in case you're curious. For the base of the crown, I'm using plastic boning and ribbon. You'll also need a plastic headband to mount the antlers and hot glue. Step 1 is cutting the boning so it's 1 inch larger than your head. If you plan on wearing the crown with an elaborate hairstyle or wig, make it a little larger so it'll fit over top. Glue the ends together so they overlap by 1 inch. Then secure the ends together with binder clips and leave it to dry. While the glue is setting, I cut apart the wreath picks I purchased. I removed the stems and cut a lot of them into smaller pieces so they would be easier to glue on. I also like the versatility this gives me in design, since there's a lot more you can do with them when they are separated. And I repeated this with the fake flowers and cranberries. Now I took out the headband and put it on. While wearing it, I used a Sharpie to mark where I wanted the antlers to be. I used a ton of glue to secure these, and I held them in place for several minutes until the glue had hardened. It's also worth mentioning that these were only sold with 2 left antlers, so to get them facing each other, one had to be glued on backwards, which isn't ideal, but I've convinced myself it isn't too obvious. And if you're wondering why I didn't glue these onto the crown itself, that's because it wasn't stiff enough to support them. The antlers ended up buckling inward and it wasn't a good look. This gave me a much nicer end result and makes the crown easier to store. With the antlers done, it's time to remove the binder clip from the boning. Make sure it fits, then cut out a piece of ribbon long enough to cover the boning. Apply glue to the interior of the boning and press the ribbon into it. Do this in small sections, otherwise the glue will dry before you can secure the ribbon. Not to mention the risk of burning yourself increases because there's so much glue everywhere. Then apply glue to the other side of the boning and fold the ribbon so it covers the boning completely. Now glue leaves onto the interior of the crown. This helps bulk out the shape without weighing the crown down. It's important to glue the leaves onto the interior of the crown. You want the ribbon base on the exterior to be left untouched. Otherwise, you'll be gluing decorations onto the leaves and it won't be as secure. Trust me, I have made that mistake before. I glued the leaves to pretty much the entire interior of the crown. Now it's time to attach the decorations. I like to start with larger ones first, which in my case are fruits and birds. I hold the decoration in place first to make sure I like it, then I put glue on the decoration and hold it in place on the crown for a good 30 seconds until the glue sets. I like to place the smaller decorations that I have more of around the larger ones, so I'm gluing some flowers on and little clumps of pine needles. I don't like having any of the same decorations right next to each other, so I'm breaking them up with pine cones and berries. Moving over several inches, I glued another large bunch of decor down. Then I glued a bird on top of it for reasons. I filled the space next to it with more of the filler decorations like flowers, berries, and needles. Pine needles, not needles, needles. After I moved far enough away from the bird, I glued down one of the pears. It was flopping over a bit, so I put a pine cone underneath it to help support it. And I repeated this process on the other side since I wanted them to be spaced evenly. Then I continued covering the band. Once the band was fully covered, I went back in and glued any leftover decorations onto the top edge to make it look a bit fuller. And that's it! Another crown is finished and ready to be worn. It was paired with a bold lipstick and the look was complete. I'm really pleased with the end result and happy to finally have my own antlered crown. In case you were wondering, I put the crown on first, then slide the antlers on after. And if you want to see any more holiday headpiece tutorials, then check out the description box because I have quite a few and they will all be linked down below. I hope you like how it turned out and that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to all of you very soon.